Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to attempt to give you a guideline for what Suzuki Book a student should be placed in based on the skills they have or the skills they lack. Now you might be watching this video as a teacher, wondering where to place your student, or you might be watching this as a student, wondering which Suzuki Book will be best for you. Now, this guideline is subjective and it's based on the way I teach Suzuki, but I teach Suzuki in a very organized way with a clearly defined set of skills for each book. And that's what I'm going to share with you. I'm going to run through the list of skills, and then I'm going to list them again in the video description box below, so that if you need to, you can cut and paste and take a closer look at those skills. So first of all, I'm going to give you a list of skills for Suzuki Book 1. If you have trouble with 3 or more of those skills, then you need Suzuki Book 1. If you only have trouble with 1 or 2, then you might be ready for Suzuki Book 2. Okay, here we go. Number 1, you should be able to hold the violin securely in a natural and relaxed way without fear of slipping or dropping the instrument. Number 2, you should be able to hold the bow very naturally and in a relaxed way. Number 3, your left hand needs to be relaxed. No squeezing. It's a bad habit. You got to nip that in the bud. No squeezing, and often that's related to how you're holding the violin. If you don't have your violin secure, your left hand is going to want to clench. So take a look at those two things together. Number 4, you need to have good left hand position. As well as being relaxed, you need to have the right finger curvature and the proper finger angles. Number 5, you need to be able to play in tune with the use of finger tapes. Finger tapes are just fine at this point, but your accuracy should be up to at least 80% at least. You should be able to produce a good, solid, beautiful tone. You should be able to learn Book 1 songs by ear without help. So those Book 1 songs are on the level of Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Row 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 Your Boat, or easy Christmas songs. You should be able to play that level of song by ear without any help. You should be able to keep your bow on the highway, otherwise known as the sounding point. You should be able to draw a straight bow, which just means your bow needs to remain parallel to the bridge. And finally, you should be able to cross strings with agility and without any noise. So those skills are going to be down in the video description box below. If you have trouble with 3 or more, you need Suzuki Book 1. If you only have trouble with 1 or 2 of those skills, you're possibly ready for Suzuki Book 2, but you're going to want to make those 2 skills your top priority. Get them mastered as soon as possible. Now, assuming that you have all of the skills from the Suzuki Book 1 list, here are the skills for Suzuki Book 2. If you have trouble with 3 or more, you need Suzuki Book 2. Your ears should be able to adjust for very fine pitch discrepancies without the aid of tapes. I like to have the tapes come off in Suzuki Book 2. So if you're going to skip Suzuki Book 2, you need to be able to play with great intonation accuracy without tapes. You need to have an understanding of ringy notes or sympathetic vibrations, and you need to consistently and accurately use them all the time. You need a nice, clean, hooked bow with dotted rhythm, such as is found in Witch's Dance or the Two Grenadiers, with no noise between the 2 hooked notes. It needs to be clean. You need to understand the difference between détaché, legato, and staccato. You need to be able to learn Book 2 level songs by ear without any help. You need good, accurate, rhythmic playing. And that's really hard to explain what that is, but I'm just going to leave it at that. You need to have a good rhythmized bow arm. You need to be able to slur up to 4 notes in one bow fairly easily. Your left hand must be absolutely relaxed. You need to hit the corners of your fingers, of your fingertips consistently. I call these the targets, and the corners are the corner of your fingertips closest to your thumb. That's, if you haven't heard of that, you probably need Suzuki Book 2. That's important for left hand form. You need good left hand dexterity and speed. You need to be able to play fairly fast before you get into Suzuki Book 3. your bow hand and your left hand need to be absolutely synchronized. That's what gives us clean playing. You should know how to read music. You need 1 to 2 octave scales and arpeggios in quite a few different keys, not all the keys yet, but 1 to 2 octave scales and arpeggios and a few minors as well. And you need to know the common finger patterns on the violin, otherwise known as tetrachords. The 3 most common tetrachords are half step between 2 and 3, half step between 1 and 2, and half step between 3 and 4. That's an important bit of information as well. And you need good finger independence, meaning you're able to lift single fingers at a time or move individual fingers without all the other fingers having to move simultaneously. Okay, so those skills will be down in the description box along with a link for my Suzuki Book 2 course. If you have trouble with 3 or more, you need Suzuki Book 2. If you only have problems with 1 or 2, you're possibly ready for Suzuki Book 3. So let's talk about Suzuki Book 3 next. Assuming you have all the skills I listed for Suzuki Book 1 and Suzuki Book 2, here are the skills you need before you leave Suzuki Book 3. You should have a vibrato that's fully developed and implemented. Implementing is a whole different process than just learning the vibrato. You got to learn how to use it in context. So vibrato needs to be finished. You need to know the performance practices of the Baroque period. You should know basic ornaments like grace notes, trills, mordents, and turns. And you might know what a Nachschlag is. You probably don't. I like to teach it just because it's so nerdy. So that's probably not required, but the other 4 are required. You should have an understanding of the major musical periods, the Baroque, the Classical, Romantic, and 20th century. Just a little bit of music history, and you can easily supplement that on Google if you haven't been taught that. You should understand musical phrasing. How do you find the phrase? How do you shape the phrase? You need to understand bow distribution and bow speed. How are you going to spend your bow on each note and in each phrase? You need to be able to manipulate the 3 elements of tone for changing tone colors. Bow weight, bow speed, and bow placement can all be shifted around to give you 1,000 different tone colors. You need to know how to do that. You should have a firm grasp on all 2 octave, major, and minor scales and arpeggios in all the keys. You should have practice techniques and strategies. I spend a ton of time in my Suzuki Book 3 class teaching students how to practice, how to problem solve, how to manage your time. You should be fluent in 3rd position. You should know how to shift. You should know how to do spiccato, how to do staccato, and maybe martelé. You should have basic music theory and ear training. That's hard to define without going on forever, but you should be able to identify intervals by ear. Major and minor seconds, tritones, perfect fourths, etc. You should understand your own fingerboard geography. How do you find intervals on the violin? Where are the notes on your violin when there's no tapes? That kind of thing. I like to teach timbre recognition so that you can copy other people's fingerings by ear. So timbre recognition is knowing what string an instrument is being played on. And pitch memory is another thing I like to teach in my ear training. Just helps you to retain a pitch even after you're being distracted by other things. That can help you in learning songs by ear. Okay, so there's your book 3 list. It'll be in the video description box below. If you have problems with 3 or more of those items, you need Suzuki Book 3. If you only have problems with 1 or 2, you're ready for Suzuki Book 4, possibly. But you're going to want to make those items that you lack your top priority. Get them learned as soon as possible. All right, so check out the video description box. Definitely, you'll probably want to copy and paste the lists that I've put down there for you, and I hope to see you in one of my courses. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.